So hi everyone, I'm Paulin, the founder and CEO of Drivy. So we are the leading European peer-to-peer car rental marketplace, so kind of Airbnb for cars if you want to simplify. So where did we start from? So I will start doing a short presentation of Drivy and then of course trying to project ourselves in the future of mobility and give you some understanding of how we see the next year. So first, to start with the very early start of Drivy, the opportunity is this typical picture of a European street. So 300 million cars in Europe, sitting idle 95% of the time. So that's obviously quite a huge waste of a very valuable asset. So the solution that we found is to let anyone owning a car, actually private people, but also now starting professional people, small fleet or larger fleet owners, to rent out their car through our platform, Drivy, and then recouping part or all of the costs of these cars. And on the driver side, basically, Drivy lets you rent any of the thousands of cars which are parked right around you. So we typically tackle young urban actives who are time poor, asset light, and they want the freedom and the convenience of car mobility without the hassle and the burden of owning a car. And they think it's more cool to, instead of just owning one car with one shape, to have 50,000 cars everywhere in Europe of all kinds of shapes. So basically, how does it work? If you are a car owner, you list it on our platform, you decide on the price, you set your availabilities, and if you are a driver, you can compare all the cars that are around you, pay online for the booking, and then the insurance is provided by Drivy, by our platform. It's really the cornerstone of our service. So we work with Allianz throughout Europe. So every rental, be it on the passenger side, third parties, or the car, every rental is insured by Allianz. So what are we bringing to the car sharing and car rental market? What's our value proposition? So first, probably the most obvious one is the price. So since most of the cars listed on Drivy are already paid for, so the fixed costs are already paid for, and it's only marginal revenues, we can be very competitive. So the average price on Drivy is 29 euros per day of rental, and depending on the markets we are operating in, it can be from 20% to 50% cheaper than the average prices. The second point of our value proposition is much more important, actually, than price, and it is proximity. We are not targeting a disruption just of the car rental market the way it is today. We are trying to disrupt car ownership. And for that, if you want to replace your car with an on-demand car that you will use every weekend, 30 times a year, you need walking distance car sharing. And that's what a marketplace is very strong at, so providing walking distance rentals. The last one, since we are a software company, we try to cut everything to more simple processes. A good example of that is Drivy Open, when we now put some connected hardware inside our cars so that your smartphone becomes the key and you can access them self-service. A few numbers, so we have 40,000 cars in 5 countries in Europe: France, Germany, Spain, Belgium, Austria, a bit more than 1 million members, and 2 million rental days so far. So now, this second part of my presentation is more about how do we see the future, how do we see the relationship between Drivy and the other mobility platforms. So basically, I've tried to split the world in 2 different zones here. You have the platform where you drive, and of course, these are just examples. So you have Drivy, you have Car2Go, Zipcar, and you have the platforms where you are driven. So Uber, BlaBlaCar, Waze Rider, and of course, many others are examples. This is the consumer side, but actually, if you take the supply side of these marketplaces, it's drive and rent out. So on the supply side. And for the other marketplaces, it's be driven, and drive for the supply side. So how is this going to be affected in the future? So starting from now, the early stage autonomous vehicles, and then if we look a bit more far ahead in time, when mainstream autonomous vehicles come. What's going to be the new mixture in all these platforms and marketplaces? So first, when we have early stage autonomous vehicles, for sure, there will be the frontier between these two worlds, drive and be driven, is going to start blurring and going to start merging, because of course you can very well imagine an Uber that you keep for 2 days instead of just 20 minutes, just because you no longer have the driving cost. And then actually, if you look more far ahead into the future, the drive component of these platforms is totally disappearing. And then you have a blend between these two platforms, so be driven on the consumer side and rent out on the supply side. So you have a merger of these two different, these two worlds that are separate today. So if we look first at the first phase, when we have early stage autonomous vehicles, so the first thing that already has started to happen is to have a lot of 90% autonomous vehicles. And the top thing that it means for us at Drivy is that you will have safer driving. To give you an idea, our take rate, our commission on the platform is 15%, and the insurance fee that we pay for every rental is almost the same. And of course, safer driving means a lot less insurance, and also means a lot more trust from the owner side. So this is going to totally change the trust and also the cost structure of our model. And then, of course, you have the 100% autonomous start, which already is happening now, as you all know. And that means a radical change in all the operations. And the big question for us is, how will the rollout happen? So there are various scenarios out there. One can be inside cities versus outside of cities. And then, since we do mostly rentals of 3 days outside cities, we are not affected at first. And another scenario would be that it's high traffic routes versus long tail trips. So autonomous vehicles are operating first on high traffic routes, just like kind of virtual bus lines. And long tail trips, like when you go on a weekend to a remote place, are not affected. So this is really the questions we are asking ourselves now. So then, when we are in the later phase of really mainstream autonomous vehicles, you only have be driven and rent out. What are the core competencies that are going to matter at this stage? So on the be driven side, you have dispatching, pooling. So dispatching, pooling are typically Google, Uber, BlaBlaCar type of competencies. Then one thing which is much less predictable, I find, is the trip experience, because it's not only about going from A to B. These new cars will be robots. What they are going to do beyond just transporting us, be it grab a bike, grab some food, a barbecue, be used as lodging as well, this is a big question mark. And then if we look at the core competencies on the rent outside, so you have, of course, the trust and insurance part, which is going to change a lot, financing, servicing, revenue management, all these for the supply side of marketplaces. So to conclude, here I've put the apps that I mentioned before, plus obviously some OEM examples, because a lot of basically all the major OEMs are joining the game. So definitely we can't have 30 apps available to transport you on demand within 10 years. Some of those are going to disappear, some of those are going to merge. And I think a key point is on the slide before, who will master these core competencies, then also to know who is going to survive or merge with whom. Who will master the autonomous vehicle software is going to matter a lot, depending if it's an existing sharing platform, an OEM, or a pure software player. And finally, the segmentation in terms of usage. So the difference that you could have between just going from A to B or having an experience, basically renting a robot. This is also probably going to define who is doing what. So that's all. So the only certainty is that the market of on-demand mobility is going to be huge. It's a $1 trillion market, but it's more questions, obviously, for us than certainties about the future. Thank you very much.